Hello, my name is Trey, and if you're watching this, then you know that I am coming back from a sabbatical. I recently negotiated a 6-week sabbatical with my employer. An unpaid leave of absence was technically what it was called in our policy, but I am unfortunately going back into work next week. So, I originally had recorded a video a few weeks back. I'll put it in the cards up above somewhere, where I outlined some goals and things that I originally had wanted to accomplish for my sabbatical. And so in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to return to that original list. I'm going to tell you guys what I accomplished, what I didn't accomplish, and I'm also going to tell you some lessons that I learned that I want to keep with me along the way as I return to work, and ultimately kind of the direction that I want to go to once I return to work. So if you're interested in any of that, welcome, buckle in, and let's get started. I have my goals off camera right here, so I'm going to be looking this direction for a bit, but I will recenter once I read them. So the first goal that I had, the first bucket that I had was mental health in general. I had a couple mental health goals. And the first goal that I had was to establish a practice of slowing down. Now, this was more so in the form of meditation. And I said in that video, whether it is meditation or it's just like literally pausing after like a workout or like during transition periods throughout my day, I want to have some moments of silence where I'm able to just reorient myself and take time where needed. And I'm kind of saying that I didn't accomplish this one. I didn't really take it into like that much consideration as I had planned. And I think one of the reasons for that is that I naturally had a lot more time, right? Like I wasn't feeling as bamboozled when I was going from one thing to another because all of the things that I had planned for the day mostly were intentional. And if they weren't, then it was a spur of the moment thing that it was still intentional because it was a spur of the moment thing that I wanted to do. I had the time to do it. And I had already made the determination that the value of doing it was worth the hassle of doing it, obviously, like whatever that thing may have been. So I don't think I really felt the need to slow down as much as I may have thought that I wanted to at the beginning of this, because obviously I was writing all these goals from a place of being rushed all the time. And if you've seen some of my other videos, you know that my workplace has like no real structure and it's kind of a cluster all of the time. So it makes sense that I would feel that way and be like, hey, I need to bake in some like intentional downtime. And I just didn't really do that because I had so much of it that I didn't really need to bake it in. If anything, I needed to bake in more structure, which we will get to in some of these other goals. The second mental health goal that I had was to reduce my phone screen time by 1 hour per day on average. And the reason for that was my work is in digital media, and I work all day on a screen. And so I wanted my downtime on my phone to just like bring it down more on average, so that when I return to work, I'm still like carrying that with me. I wasn't on my screen as much throughout this break, obviously, because I was able to like get outside and like go on bike rides and like hang out with friends and like do things I normally wouldn't do throughout the day. So I did actually reduce that phone screen time, but I'm saying that I hit this. I hit the intention of it, but I didn't quite hit that quantitative metric of exactly 1 hour. I think it was like 57 minutes or something because I was averaging a little over 4 hours, and my goal was to get it under 3 or just under 3. And it's basically just over 3. So it is like basically an hour, but I technically didn't meet that exact quantitative goal, if that makes sense. Okay. But like I'm giving myself a pass because I basically like did the thing that I set out to do. I just didn't hit that exact benchmark, but that benchmark was like pretty arbitrary. It didn't really matter. So for all intents and purposes, I give myself half points. How about that? All right. And then I had a bunch of physical goals, and this bucket was very exciting to me, or is exciting to me because spoiler alert, I hit almost all of them, which is really cool. So the first thing was that this honestly kind of like teeters between the mental and the physical. So the first thing that I have was to actively project new routes at the gym every single time I went to a climbing gym. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with like climbing lingo, a project is like a route on the wall that you're actively working to send, and send means get to the top. I boulder mostly. So that's actually not relevant at all. But I typically boulder when I go to the gym, and that means you don't do ropes. And I have this tendency to do the problems or the routes that most align to my style, which is typically more slab and typically more kind of like yoga and like flexibility is my strong suit. So I do climbs that typically require um a lot of like handbars, even like knee bars, and like put like a lot of pushing, essentially like a pushing motion, because I'm able to like get in these like weird angular positions just with my flexibility, that allow me to take advantage of those like sticking kind of like patterns on the wall with your body. So I tend to go that route, pun intended. But this time I forced myself to do more overhang climbs, and that's obviously when the wall is like hanging, and so you're kind of like in a cave situation. I did a lot of those climbs. I actively worked on that style, which I think, it's hard to measure success because I didn't necessarily go up a grade, but I stuck with it, and I did hard climbs every single time that I went to the gym. And I actively worked on hard ones that I couldn't send or finish initially. And it led me to completing and sending a lot of my projects, which was awesome. Like just the perseverance really changed my performance. And that's not shocking, I don't think, to hear that probably, but it was really nice, and it was a big confidence boost, and just a reminder to myself to not cheap out on stuff that's easy, just because it gives me a confidence boost in that I can do hard things when I set my mind to it. This is a huge one. So the next goal I had was to not drink at all, and I have not had a sip, even a little sip of like a beer or a glass of wine. I have not had any alcohol for the past, what is today? Today's a Friday, so it's been 5 weeks and 2 days since I've last had a drink. So it's been 37 days. Cheers to that. I'll cheers you with my iced coffee. So yeah, cheers. Um, but like this one has really snowballed into really everything else. It has boosted my mood. It has helped my mental health in that, like when I was drinking and getting hangovers, I was getting hangovers probably like at least once a week. Like I was heavily drinking at least once a week, usually twice a week. So I'd get into these cycles of like every 3 to 4 days, I would get like pretty drunk, to be honest, and then the next day I would be hungover. And so I was getting into this cycle where it's just like it affected my ability to go to the gym and work on my body. It affected my ability to like really have like confidence in myself. And um a lot of people in my family, I mentioned this in the goals video, struggle with alcoholism and substance abuse. And so cutting that out was kind of like, whew, okay, like cool. Not that I'm necessarily different from people in my family that have struggled from that, but just knowing that I can. Again, it's this confidence thing, that is really liberating. So it's just helped in a lot of different areas, and I intend to keep up my sobriety as I head back into work. There's going to be the introduction of a lot of stressors, obviously, that I haven't had in this break. And so there's like other things in my physical health that I want to work on, but like this is going to be a main one, as I introduce those stressors back, just to focus on that. And I've replaced a lot of, I think what's helped, in addition to like obviously not having many stressors during this period, is I replaced alcohol with, like carbonated beverages, like, carbonated waters, sodas, so that whenever I get a craving, even NA alcohols, so like non-alcoholic beers, non-alcoholic wines, um, I've gotten into like those types of things, which are really helpful to have in like social settings where everyone's drinking. It really is actually really helpful and makes me feel like lowers my social anxiety, which is what I was using it for, and still keeps me sober and able to drive, which is a big perk of like going to parties and being able to drive. Game changer, true game changer. All right. The next one was, oh, stop eating once I feel full. And I'm going to say that I accomplished this one, though it wasn't intentional. So I think the reason that I was eating so much goes along with kind of the anxiety. I think I was using it as a coping mechanism. At work, they have like a ton of like snacks and stuff in the office, and I would just like, purchase them. And so, I mean, some were free and some weren't, but like I would just shove things into my mouth when I got anxious, pretty much. And so I stopped doing that. And then I've also been exercising a lot more as a result, of having a lot more time on my hands. I've been going for bike rides. I've been going for just a lot more walks around my neighborhood. And I genuinely think that my metabolism has started to change. I'm not as hungry because when you exercise, I mean, typically you eat more because, you're burning more calories, but like it also alters like when you eat. It kind of like alters your circadian rhythm. And so I don't know. I think it's just like helped my like meals become a lot more like standardized, I guess, and it's kind of eliminated my cravings to snack, and that might also have to do with uh what am I saying? The beverages, like maybe just like also replacing with like carbonated beverages has like made my stomach bubbly, and I'm like, I don't want a snack right now. I'm full. I don't know. But in either way, that's been like a good side effect, even though it wasn't really like intentional. But yeah, I'm not overeating anymore. I think as part of that kind of self regulation that's happened by stopping the drinking and also exercising more. Okay, that's everything that I had for physical goals. And then the next was relationship goals. And I had three of these. So the first was continuing to navigate my conflict resolution skills. And I definitely accomplished this one. I've had some tough conversations during this time with friends and loved ones, and I'm really proud of myself because they like I've come out on the other side of them. I think my relationships are stronger because of them, and I hope the other people feel that way too. Definitely haven't lost anyone over them, and while some of them were really uncomfortable, they were necessary, and now it feels like there's kind of a weight off of my shoulders because I was able to express myself. Not saying there's nothing to work on. I think I could have been better at expressing myself in certain contexts in those situations. I'm not going to give any examples because that's a bit too personal, but um, I think that I have stuff to work on. But the fact that I'm actually forcing myself to express myself at the risk of like hurting someone's feelings, I think that that's real progress because at the end of the day, we're all humans. We are all going to hurt the people that we care about in one way, shape, form, or another. The real thing that saves and really helps relationships thrive is having a system of open communication and dialogue and understanding that at the end of the day, your loved one is, trying to love you, and you are like everyone has good intent. It's usually like 90% of the time I feel like communication is the issue because we don't prioritize developing our communication skills over like what the actual problem is. I don't know if that makes sense. Like I guess I'm saying typically the communication part of like expressing the concern or expressing the problem, I feel like a lot of the times is actually harder work than doing the real work to fix the problem. So anyway, good stuff there. And then the another goal that I had was to reignite old friendships, and I accomplished this. 6 weeks is not a lot of time to like sustain and like maintain those relationships. Obviously, long term, it's just to start them. And I wanted to keep a lot of these goals small because 6 weeks isn't a long time to make so many big life changes. But I will say that I did accomplish this. I reached out to three old friends during these 6 weeks, and I've hung out with one of them in person once, and we're actually going to hang out again um, the first or second week that I'm back to work. So kind of two hangouts with that friend as a result of this time. And then I've also done like FaceTime calls with two of my other old friends and just catching up with them and where they're at in life. And I hope to continue to do that. And they were good conversations. And I'm seeing one of those friends actually in person. Yeah, we're gonna hang out kind of soon. So I was very happy to do that as well because I love them very much. And then the last goal that I had for relationships, which I did not accomplish, unfortunately, is trying out a new social group. And I have been wanting to create a social group that's really outside of the context of my relationship because I've moved in with my partner. This is my partner's house. This is my room in his house, but it is technically his home. My name is not on the not on the mortgage, not on the title. And so when I moved to the city and with him, a lot of the people that obviously I got introduced to were through him. And while I think that's beautiful and great, the majority of the relationships that I have in this city are uh I don't want to say like tertiary or secondary behind him. I do think that I've made my own relationships with his friends, but at the same time it's like it's just not wise, I think, to have one's like the majority of your social network tied to one specific connection. And so, you know, love my boyfriend very much. But I do want to start like making my own relationships. So I do have some of that naturally as well, but it's still kind of in the minority. And so I wanted to work on growing that by attending, some new group just to try it out. I have interests like there's like a chess club in the city, and I'm not good at chess at all, but I have been learning. So I think that could be cool to just check out and do like a novice night or something, as well as like a French club. There's a couple different things that I could go to, honestly, that I just haven't checked out yet. So I still want to do that going into this fall. The next category was house projects, and the first one that I have here is installing my bidet, and I did. I sure did. Sorry, you might be getting noises from my chair, adjusting my chair. Sorry. Also, cheers to the iced coffee again. Gonna take another sip. Um, so I did. That was a chair. That was a chair, people. If you heard that, this mic picks up everything. I got a new mic. Well, my boyfriend got me a new mic. Again, love him. But it picks up so much. Now I'm like, every little creak, I'm like, oh, like, how's that gonna sound? Anyway, I'm like, that was the chair. Okay. So installing the bidet, I did do that, and I'm proud of that, and my butt is very happy about that. My next one was to do a deep clean of the house, and I was like, I don't know why I thought I was gonna do this. I did not do this, but I was like, I'm gonna like clean every like inch and surface, and it's gonna take like 3 whole days. But gosh darn, I'm gonna do it. I did not do that at all. I did. I will say that slight points, like maybe quarter points on this one. Definitely not half points, but I did start incorporating practices that I don't typically do. Like I don't typically dust. Do people really like I don't know. I got like I will say my dresser was dusty. My dresser was very dusty. And I've started to incorporate that, doing that before I vacuum. So that the dust gets on the floor and it gets all sucked up by the vacuum. So I guess anyway, the I've incorporated new cleaning practices into like my weekly cleaning practices, but I didn't do a deep clean. So it's like partial win, but not really what I set out to do. And then lastly, I wanted to make my gaming setup better, and I definitely have done that. So my yeah, I'm looking at it. So I'm like, I can't really move the webcam Um, but yeah, I got a desk. So this is now where you guys are you're sitting on a desk. Before, I was using this like tiny bamboo table that I'm looking at. It's like an end table, but it can't hold much weight at all because it's bamboo. And then the actual, top of it is like wires. Um, it's honestly kind of a shitty little table, but I do think aesthetically it looks cute, and I like the wood, and it matches the wood of my dresser. And this new desk that I got is also wood. It's another dark wood. So, um, yeah, I don't know. It's just vibes, and I'm very happy. And I got it for free. I got it on the side of the street, which was awesome. I was able to, with the extra time that I had, actually like hose it down, um, make modifications to it that I needed to do, which weren't intense. I was basically just removing parts of it to get it to fit, and it fits perfectly in my little nook by my window. So I'm like hype about that I got that for free. This finance channel got it for free. It's awesome. Okay. And I also did some like wire management, which was super annoying. I hate doing wire and like cord management, but I not took one for the team. I knuckled down. There you go. I knuckled down and like actually did the hard work there. So I'm proud of myself for doing that too. Okay. And now we're going to start to get into some of the like larger discussions. So the last kind of goal like area was for content. What I'm doing now. And the first goal that I honestly regret making, and we'll get into it, is uploading every single week. And I did accomplish this. There was one week where I just re-uploaded one of my podcast episodes because on lifestyle creep and like kind of how I think the people that are looking up finance content are typically hyper savers and not spenders. Um, so I think that a lot of the finance advice that's out there on the internet is geared towards spenders, and I think for like introductory finance content, that's fine. Um, but I don't know. I think that a lot of people have honestly the opposite problem, and I know that I do. Um, I forget honestly how this ties into my point already. Oh no. Well, basically, basically, yeah. So I uploaded that episode because here we go, landing the plane. It kind of ties to my shift to talking about finances in general and how they relate to my specific life. Because, as you know, I won't go down on a whole tangent. You can watch my Coast-Fi video, but I've hit really incredible milestones for my age, and I'm like well, ahead of the curve in terms of building wealth. Wealth. But yeah, I think the message that I want to start living by is really spending in line with my values and not saving just for and earning a high income doing something I don't like just to save, because I don't really need to save that much anymore, which is crazy. I still need to save, obviously. Like, I still need to save, but I can be a lot more liberal with what I do with my money. So anyway, I uploaded that because I just wasn't inspired to make new content at that time, and I didn't want to like fit a square into a circle. And I realized that with this arbitrary goal of uploading every week, that it's forcing me to fit a square into a circle if I didn't have anything new to say. And I think that that is probably the most toxic thing that I did during this break, which, like, yeah, an arbitrary goal about like, I'm also like, I think I need to, yeah, do that. That's a little better. I think making an arbitrary goal around like like quantifying the number of uploads is a bit silly. Um, I don't think uploading more regularly has helped me that much in this break. I think it's, I've mostly the most subscribers that I've gained out of this period. I think I've only gained like 10 like 10 subscribers, and I love you guys who have subscribed during this period. But it is frustrating to like release, because I was also releasing videos before my official break as well. So I've been regularly uploading for about 2 months, a little over 2 months. And yeah, it's still the same. I still have this one video about Dave Ramsey because I went on his show, that is really controversial apparently, that like keeps getting views, and almost all, I think 5 out of the 8 or 5 8 or yeah, I think I got 10 subscribers, but then 2 people unsubscribed, so like I don't know. In any case, I think at least half, if it's 10, at least 5 people have subscribed from that video. So it isn't even like the new work that I'm doing that's bringing in new subscribers. Some of it is, but a lot of it isn't as well. It's 50-50 at best. And so, it's just frustrating as a small creator, making a bunch of content. And most of it, I think, was pretty relevant and new, and the quality was better. This one's more of a rant. This one's I'm doing more as a podcast, but it's partially because I'm not seeing great results from putting in a lot of effort and having an upload schedule. So I think that it was kind of a toxic thing to do. I think I should be focused, and I think probably most small creators should be focused on quality over quantity. These videos don't act as like a funnel to like support like a product that I'm selling or a business that I already have stood up. Like I know some small creators use it to like get clients to fund something else. And I don't like have a practice like that. I've just been trying to kind of like make it. And that's not like funny. I don't want to laugh at myself. I want to give myself like some grace, but I've been trying to kind of like quote unquote make it as a small creator by just uploading regularly, thinking that that's like the key to success. And it's clearly not, and it just kind of like adds stress, like unnecessary stress, and I think it added unnecessary stress to this break. It did really help in the beginning add some structure, which I'm also going to talk about in a minute. But for the most part, it was pretty arbitrary and unnecessary. And I think just going forward, unless I have a different kind of business strategy that is linked to content creation, I need another sip, sorry. That's like linked to content creation. I just don't think that it's really worth putting myself under any unnecessary like standard in terms of like quantifying it. I'm also like, I'm not even monetized. So I don't know what I was just hoping that I would like get a lot more subscribers from releasing content more regularly. And it's clear that like my stuff isn't being seen by no one. But it's like also like it's like maybe 100 views. Like it's so it's just it's a bit frustrating, and that's definitely not worth the stress that I was putting myself under. Okay, let's see. And that's also why I'm not editing this one. This is going to be kind of stream of consciousness, and that's fine. Okay. Oh, it's also, I'm going to move on in a second, but one last note about this is that the one video that actually performed best during this period is my Coast By video, and it was like this. It was like podcast style, completely unedited rant. Not even rant, but just like, like what's on my mind, like, so I'm like, maybe I just need to like, maybe I just really need to go back to the podcast format. I don't know, because I think that there's something that maybe, one, that was like a milestone video, and milestone videos people like because they want to feel inspired on their journey. So maybe that was it more so than the style. But in any case, I also like I've gotten really good feedback about my podcast recently from a couple different creators, so that's really cool. Like I'm glad that people are really enjoying the Coast by podcast. I will put it in the description of this again, like I've been doing, but I really get into deep conversations about like what work means, and I'm thinking that the kind of like raw vulnerability and like storytelling that I have in there, just like as it relates to my own life, I treat it like therapy kind of. So I think that people are connecting to that, and I'm thinking that maybe that's all that content creation really needs to be for me, for now, until I have something else that it makes sense to like support. Okay. The last content goal that I had was to get 25 followers on Twitch, and not even new followers, just total, because that's the new benchmark for affiliate. And I'm close. I technically still have one more week, but I have 22 followers, so I need 3 more. It's really hard, honestly, again, as another small creator thing, to reach people in an algorithm that doesn't really support small creators. I can only control what I can control. I can control what games I play, how I act during those gameplays, and also trying to engage people when they come up and you know are interested. And so I think I engage people pretty well when they do come over. And my analytics have been improving in that direction. But again, it's honestly like looking at the analytics isn't even really helpful when you're such a small creator, because your sample size is so small. So I think my goal there, I think that was also kind of an unnecessary goal. It did feel attainable. It still kind of is attainable, but really I should be focusing when it comes to content creation just on input goals, and not having input goals not be quantified, I think. So like it should be streaming games that I really enjoy, trying to really engage with people like while they're with me. Like I should focus on that stuff to improve quality over quantity. Ooh, okay, those are all of the goals. And so now we're gonna talk about some takeaways that I had finally, as we are half an hour in. So this is gonna be like an hour long video. So hope you're ready for this. But yes, another sip before we dive in. Ooh, sorry, all the sugars at the bottom. Mm. Delicioso. Okay. My first takeaway is that I'm not crazy. Well, I am crazy, but I'm not crazy in this way. Work, especially my current position, like it really is that bad for me. The environment sucks. My mental health was so much better these past 6 weeks, and physical health, like every aspect of my life almost. Yeah, I would say so. My relationships, my happiness, my mental health, and my physical health, like everything was better. Everything was better. The work I was doing, aside from those goals that I shouldn't have really quantified, like I was still doing work that I cared about. Like I still cared about content creation. I still cared about doing my passion projects. I cared about doing my like expressing my creativity in this way. And all of those things worked to improve my life. And work really takes away from all of those things. It leaves me with no energy. It leaves me with no time to really pursue those things effectively. It crushes my physical health by sitting all day. And yes, I can mitigate that somewhat, but like not that much. I really do feel like I made strides. And so I'm responsible for choosing my coping mechanisms for work. Like, again, alcohol, I take responsibility for kind of not ruining, but like making a lot of areas of my life worse through using substances as my coping mechanism so heavily these past couple years as I have been. That's my responsibility. But at the same time, like work really just is that awful, where I was like, this is the easy button. We're taking the easy button because I'm so exhausted. And so I think really what I'm taking away is that, no, like I'm doubling down on my position. I really do. Like by 9 to 5. Hello. Like this is, this is kind of another aside, and fuck it. We're just going to keep having asides. But I would kind of not brainwash myself, but a lot of MLM, like multi-level marketing schemes, will say, "Oh, like start your own business, leave the 9 to 5 life. It's so toxic." And like they're not wrong. They're not wrong, but they're using that frustration, and they're using the fact that employment is so terrible to scam you, and it's just frustrating because that kernel of truth is like I feel like been my whole adult angst has been the system doesn't work for me, and it doesn't work for most people. That like I would argue. I watched this podcast recently with Diana Miriam, who is in the FI community. She's more with the Coast FI kind of lifestyle. And I forget what podcast it was, to be honest, but she said there, like, work isn't the problem. Employment is the problem. And I completely agree. It's like, Are we I said this also on my podcast when I talk about work versus life, but like jobs regulate and place societal value on certain work that happens in this country and the work that you're really like eligible to do. Like a job is, you know, work that is valued, obviously, because you're like getting paid for it. And jobs are essentially a way to control the work that happens in this country, and gets you kind of away a lot of the time from the true kind of like work that you would be doing if you didn't have like these restraints of needing to live and needing to work in order to live. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. Um, so anyway, I think that it doesn't sound like it's profound. Maybe it does. I don't know, but I it is profound. Like imagine a world where we were able to do the work that spoke to us most, where we could have the most impact because it was so natural to us and we were so internally motivated to do it. And we had the skills to do it. Like the impact that you would have and the quality of the work that is actually produced that would benefit society would be greater, if we were left to our own devices. However, obviously there would be labor that no one wanted to do in a world like that, and I'm essentially just about to describe socialism, but you could also have kind of like a lottery system, or maybe there's like a lottery system where for a quarter of a year, like or like a third of the year, like 3 or 4 months a year, you have to do this like shitty work, but then you get to return to like your dream kind of job. And I know it wouldn't be as simple as that. It would be really transient, because your dreams might change, and so you might want to do something else. And like there would still have to be the regulating bodies, and like I don't think there's a utopia. I don't think that any system of government is you know perfect. But just imagine kind of like the meaning that you could have with a life like that. Because even doing like the shitty jobs, it's like you're providing like the service that everyone like needs to survive, like whether that's like cleaning bathrooms or like helping build bridges or like doing manual labor. I just think that I don't know. And then the rest of the year you're like able to do whatever, like essentially like whatever job you want. Like I just think what a beautiful world that could be. But anyway, I'll stop the socialist tangent for now. So yeah, that's essentially my takeaway, is that work does suck, employment sucks, it's way too restrictive, and it just doesn't align with most of my personal values. That this field that I'm in doesn't really align with my personal values anymore. I think I do make a really good user experience person, but I think that the way that user experience has really kind of been hijacked through conversion rate optimization stuff. And we kind of we use user experience to gain revenue. We like it's viewed as a lever to lock people into a sale, or getting people addicted like to a game. Like all those annoying mobile game apps, like those are user experience principles, psychological principles that are being weaponized. And I know that sounds weird, but it's like all those addicting little like stupid games that are just like constantly spamming you with ads. It's like that's revenue to them, and they literally use our monkey brains to be able to so I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to go on a whole tangent, but well, I guess I kind of do. But the way things keep progressing with tech and with media in this country and globally, it's not just a US trend. um it's bad. It's less and less privacy. It's more and more gimmicks. It's more and more extremism. It's more addiction. It's just like media is really unhinged right now, and I do not want to. I don't ethically like really want to be in this field anymore, because what user experience should really be is advocating for the user, almost like your HR for your customer. Like that's really kind of what it should be, but it so much of it gets hijacked by marketing departments through the use of conversion rate optimization, which is essentially linking UX practices to revenue. And like part of it's good because you can fight the fight and say, hey, look, UX actually makes a difference in revenue, so advocate for me. But it just gets dirtied and sullied over time, and so that's where the field is at, in my opinion. And well, I do think there are probably good UX positions out there. Like so much of tech is like just fucking being erased right now, like with speculation of AI and just companies being greedy. Like UX is being deprioritized over like product teams, for example. And now I'm probably talking in shit that people can't relate to, but essentially just like essential, like UX isn't viewed in a lot of places as an essential function to like launching a product. And so a lot of the times it gets ignored and deprioritized. And right now when the job market is crazy, it just doesn't even feel like a place I want to grow. Even for money at this point, I think I've kind of reached the pinnacle of UX. I don't think there's like much more to go, at least in terms of opportunities that exist in the current field. So that being said, I think it's time to pivot, and that is really my leads into my second takeaway is I'm getting out of the field, and I have ideas of what that might be. I don't want to say what they are right now because um I originally, in my Coast 5 video, I talked about starting freelance doing UX stuff, and I actually signed up for. I created a portfolio. I've had a portfolio, but I have like a research portfolio for UX, and kind of a design portfolio. But they're not my designs. It's just like here's like what my research has helped create, uh, and I've created freelance profiles for smaller companies that have websites to be like, hey, do you need some help with making your website more conversion rate like friendly? Like essentially, you want more sales? I can help you with design principles that'll help increase them. From what I've seen from working with a bunch of different companies, like in-house, agency, federal, private sector. Like I've worked in so many different environments, and while I've only worked in this field for 5 years, like I've kind of I feel like I've gone pretty close to as far as I can go. Anyway, like aside from working for like the big tech giants like Google or YouTube, well, YouTube is Google. You know what I mean? Social media giants. Like that's pretty much I think the only other place that I could go for right now. And I don't want to go there either because those companies are not ethical at all either. So I'm kind of just like kind of over it. But yeah, I'm not going to discuss exactly like I what my number one plan to do, but I anyway, what I'm getting to is I don't think I even want to do freelance in this field, even though it'd be like the easiest thing to kind of step down to. I think that my like long term, I'm getting out, and I want to get out of this field within the next couple of years, and I mean ideally as soon as possible. But I want to transition to something more sustainable ethically for myself. And that's just a bit more like interesting and gives me more flexibility in my schedule and like allows me to open my own business or practice. So I am working towards that. I have a really solid idea that I do have a background in like academically that I am hoping to expand upon to be able to switch. But I will say more about that in a different video. All right, the third takeaway is that I have a slight productivity problem. Um, I mentioned this before, but I was making my own structures during this time, and I was making to-do lists every day. And I actually I don't think that that's inherently problematic because when there's literally no structure, when you're not really accountable to do anything any given day, I think having an outline of like this is what I want to accomplish is actually like really helpful. And for me, it's motivating. I love crossing stuff off lists, and I've been in this environment as I was preaching earlier, where since there's been no organizational structure, I've used to-do lists to just fucking keep my head above water because things are so crazy and things change at the drop of a hat or drop of a dime or whatever metaphor you want to say. So it makes sense that like I've really used them to anchor myself throughout the past, God, yeah, probably like 3 to 5 years. Um, so I don't think that that's bad. However, the bad part was I noticed that I felt guilty and shameful when I wouldn't complete my whole to-do list for a day. And it's crazy because I would have like things like meal prep, all your meals for the week, which is like typically 2 meals. I never meal prep breakfast. I either make it from scratch each morning or I don't cook. Like I have like fruit or something. Um, but yeah, I was like meal prep your lunches and dinners for the whole week. Also clean the house. Also take care of your body. Like I would have like, way too much. Also because I'm used to shoving all that in on a weekend. And I would feel guilty about not getting all of that done. And it wasn't really until like about last week, so like the end of week 4. So yeah, full month where my brain started to kind of deprogram and I was like, what if even though it's going to mess up my like food like grocery schedule and the cooking schedule, what if I just push that 2 days from now? Like for meal prepping. Like what if I got takeout that lasted me today and tomorrow and then I meal prep, the next day? Like what does that really do? And so I started to do that and it felt a lot better as you might imagine. Like it's not rocket science, it's not hard math. Um but it really just made me realize that I am so addicted to productivity and just getting stuff that needs to be done. And I just put so much pressure on myself. And I've gotten this feedback in a couple different areas of my life, both relational and professional. And again, I'm not going to get into the relationship stuff because it's a bit too personal to share on a platform like this. But professionally, I even had a boss tell me like, you have crazy goals. like, like I don't know how you're going to accomplish what you're talking about. And like granted, bosses typically, I feel like when you like overshoot like for the moon, as long as it doesn't make them look bad, they're like, "Oh my god, great. Like do it. Do the impossible." Like that they want to get the most productivity out of you, right? And so for bosses, and it's happened for multiple bosses, be like, you have really high expectations. Like I think you can do it if you really want to, but like so um it was interesting to really feel that in a non-work setting, if that makes sense, because like I had no excuses. It wasn't like I could get ahead on something like that was gonna like it wasn't like I just didn't have any excuses. It was like there literally is no issue if I don't get to this today because I can get to it tomorrow or the next day or even the next day. Like unless I had like a trip coming up, which I did. I went on some trips, which was also very fun. But unless I had like something like that where it was completely disruptive to my schedule, didn't matter. So yeah, I just realized that I'm putting way too much pressure on myself and being like slightly crazy. And I was replacing work with other work, and that was really reflected in the content schedule too, that I've already talked about a few times in this video. Um, Yeah. So, okay. So, another factor. So, I mentioned that it took about a month to start allowing myself to like push those to dos a little bit. It also made me realize that 6 weeks really is such a short amount of time. And thank God that I went back and asked my boss for 6 weeks instead of the 4 that I chickened out on. Maybe I'll try and put the card above as well. I actually recorded the conversation that I had with my boss. And I said in that video that I was going to ask for 6 weeks. And then I chickened out and said 4 when I was actually on the call. And a couple days later, I went back and I was like, "Can I actually please have 6 weeks? I really want 6 weeks." And he was kind of pissed about it, but he acquiesced eventually, to give me the full 6 weeks. And I like thank God I did, because this truly wasn't even enough time. Like I'm really now just starting to like feel the real effects of, and maybe this I was gonna say slowing down, and what's funny about that is my first goal in this video was to establish a practice of slowing down, and I didn't do it. So maybe I really did need to be much more intentional with that goal, or put some boundaries more around like my to-do list, and really chunk my productivity, instead of letting it go loose. But rein loose? I don't know if that's the term. Run loose. I don't know. But yeah, I think that if finances weren't a concern, which honestly they weren't, but if finances weren't a concern, and let's just say I could ask for any amount of time knowing that I would come back to a job, well, I guess then I just wouldn't have a job. But saying I had to come back, I guess like some realistic boundaries, like I I would ideally love to have like 3 full months off if I were gonna do this again, because like this would be half of my time, since I'm like really just starting to like feel the effects of slowing down and like deprogramming my brain a bit. I wonder who I would be, what I would be doing in another 6 weeks time. How would I feel then? Would all of those layers, would more layers of myself continue to peel off? Because yeah, I think it's interesting that those creative projects that I mentioned, mostly content creation, that's starting to peel off now too. Um, so I don't know. Yeah, or I'm at least thinking about it differently. I still need to create. That's still like a big driver, but I think it's less, or maybe just like not really in the original ways that I had thought of. So I just think it'd be interesting if I had a lot more time to see who I would like naturally become. So, and then this is the last one. So for the financial people, which I know a lot of you are, um, my spending really didn't change much during this period, and I was expecting it to not change much, to spend quite a bit less. And the reason I thought I might spend a bit less is because a lot of the spending that I do is for escape. And what do I mean by that? I mean convenience, a lot of convenience, and then like a lot of special things to get me distracted from the fact that I work at a job I don't like. And I've been working in a field that I don't like for so long. And yeah, I mean that translates mostly to like restaurants, and trips. And we did have trips throughout this 6 week period. It was my birthday. We went to the beach. We went to some concerts. Like we did still spend, and I mean me and my boyfriend, we did still spend on fun things. But I think it was balanced by the fact that I could do things like meal prep, and well, I guess really specifically that, like my restaurant spending, I think has been actually quite a bit less, ironically, even though I've had more time. Um, I've also had more time to meal prep, and I've just been disciplined about that. So I think it's been less enticing to be like, I'm gonna get takeout tonight instead of eating my meal prep, because I'm stressed and I want to have a treat. It is really like that. I want to have a treat. Like like decoupling my life from work has really allowed me to be like, I don't need as many treats. I don't need to get drunk. I don't need chips. It sounds like I'm a toddler, but like when you're so stressed, you kind of do regress to like a toddler a little bit. And it's been nice to just like discipline myself a little bit, like in terms of like the alcohol, in terms of the eating out. Oh, I've lost between 4 and 6 pounds probably as well during this 6 week period, as a result of the increase in exercise, change in my metabolism, sticking to my meal prep, and probably just eating less in general. So that's really cool. I love that. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that anymore. Oh yeah, spending. Sorry. Yeah. So I think that that's interesting, because I also filled up a lot of my time. So one might think that I would fill my time with like going shopping, or like, yeah, eating out, or trying new experiences that cost a lot of money. But sorry. Yeah, I really didn't. So that's that. And that's just something really cool to know, because it means that I'm not as prone to lifestyle inflation as I might think, and gives me like a little bit more security in terms of thinking about my emergency fund. It's like, okay, my emergency fund is pretty accurate because I spent like pretty much the same as I do now on things. So it's not like I really need to make any adjustments for lifestyle. And in fact, I did spend a little bit less. Like I spent maybe, so to give you an actual like percentage, my discretionary spending was about 18% of my budget. Like while I've been working, I averaged like this entire year up until my break. It's around 18%. And then my discretionary spending for September during my break was 15%. So it's like, it's marginally, I mean, 15% versus 18%, like that delta is big in the context just of itself. Like three percentage points over 18 is like 1/6, which ironically I think is like 18%. That's kind of funny. 15 to 18%. So it's basically like a 15 to 18%. God, sorry. Decrease in my spending, in my discretionary spending, which is cool, but it's also like, is that within like margin of error or what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, can I really say that I spent that much less? Like, I don't know if that's like statistically valid, considering it's just like 1 month. It's like one data point, but in any case, I know that I could like buckle down even more, obviously, in the state of emergency. So it's just cool to see that under like a real stress test where I was bringing in no income, like what I had projected is pretty accurate, and that's just to keep my lifestyle the same. Like I still spent less while keeping my lifestyle the same. Just like naturally, I allowed myself to do what I wanted. Like I wasn't really holding back that much aside from like the meal prep angle, and it didn't feel bad. Like it didn't really feel like holding back, and that's why I'm not really classifying it as that, because I was just able to be more intentional. I created more meals that I thought were interesting. I was actually using ChatGPT to create like meals that were interesting for me, and that actually like worked out pretty well. And I really like the system that I've created with that. That's like my only use of AI. But yeah, it's just good to know that like like my projections are accurate, and even with a little buffer. So all in all, I would do this again and again. Like I would make this decision to take this break over and over again because it provided me a stress test of my financial models, which seemed to be accurate, in terms of like, you know, my worst case, like my spending habits, and like all of that. Stress tested my financial modeling and gave me a bit more confidence to like keep making changes in my life that get me more towards a life that I want to live, because I have the money that I need to accomplish the things I want to accomplish. It allowed me to see a reasonable next step in terms of the shape of my career. It allowed me to quit, you know, drinking and be sober, which improved all facets of my health. And it held me accountable to start intentionally making my relationships better. And it really clarified my position on work. Again, like I'm not crazy. Like this, like work and you know, the typical like corporate kind of work model just is like it does not work for me. And it does actively depress me. And when I'm left to my own devices, sure, I might stress myself out a bit, but even that's beginning to wane. But I sure as hell have not been depressed during this break. So yeah, it's like on my own, I'm fine. And it really is just society and work that brings me down. So, all right, that's where I'm going to end it. Thank you for sticking around for a full hour. If you've made it here, oh my God, I don't know. Thank you. Just thank you so much. If you want to keep the dialogue going, you know, do so in the comments. Send me a message. I put my email on here, so you can reach out to me by email. It's in my channel. It's on my channel if you wanna do that. But yeah, again, thank you, and I'll see you. I don't know what I'm gonna be posting next. I don't know, because I'm gonna be back at work, so maybe I'll post a depression post. Like coming back from work, I'll be like, I hate this, but I don't know. We'll see. Thank you so much for being here, and see you next time. Bye.